Welcome to the league with your host, David Magid, and you might know me as the Solar Maverick, Benoy Thanjan. You give us 5 minutes, and we give you the latest clean energy news. Well, according to Wood Mackenzie, new community solar installations in the first half of 2005 fell by 36%. That's roughly, compared to last year, that's roughly 440 megawatts installed, down from about 680 megawatts from the same period in 2024. What is driving these slowdowns? There's a lot of different reasons. A lot of it is related to both the federal and state side. There's policy uncertainty with the big, beautiful bill. Interconnection delays continue to be a massive bottleneck, permitting, pilot taxes, everything's just taking a lot longer to get approved. Moratoriums in certain markets like New York, which is the largest community solar market. Also, rising financing costs, supply chain constraints, tariffs. At the same time, um, too, a lot of the solar for all money that was granted to certain states were for the expansion of community solar. Wood Mackenzie thinks that last year is probably going to be the peak year of megawatts for community solar. If you're not familiar with community solar, these are distribution level projects that are at most 5 megawatts DC. Each state has a different program. It's both rooftop and then ground mounted and carport systems as well. It allows people who don't have solar on their house to be able to get that. That's, apartment owners or people who rent apartments, I apologize, or also like homes that's for some reason can't get solar. Maybe it's their roof is old or maybe there's some sort of shading. The great thing about community solar is politicians love it because it creates jobs. It also helps with the resiliency of the grid. What it was interesting on the article that I read about this was they were going to say that it's going to be smarter going forward, meaning that it's not just going to be community solar, it's going to be community solar plus storage. So if you're familiar with storage, the Big Beautiful Bill expanded the standalone ITC incentive for storage to 2023. This will actually help with resiliency if you combine solar plus storage. And also, we feel like in this article they were saying that storage will allow more solar to come online because people will couple solar plus storage. So it will obviously keep you updated. David and I have a lot of experience developing community solar. What's interesting too is it's a discount to residential rates versus like the utility rate. So that's why a lot of developers like these projects and investors because they have higher returns. And then also it should be a faster timeline than a utility scale project. Why I'm mentioning all that is that there are some developers, which Dave actually mentioned on a previous episode of the league, are developing these community solar projects without the investment tax credits because the return is pretty high and it's just so complicated with the changing government incentives. The next item that I'm going to talk about is after 9 years of leading the Solar Energy Industry Association, SEIA, the head of SEIA, which is the largest solar lobbying group in the US, Abby Hopper, is stepping down as president CEO effective January 30th, 2026. She's led SEIA serving the solar community and she's done an amazing work. I've had great interactions and worked with Abby on a lot of different initiatives. I've actually had her as well on the Solar Maverick podcast recently. I wish her the best of luck on her next thing that she's going to do. And I'm excited about who's going to be the new leader of the Solar Energy Industries Association. Abby, thank you for all your great and hard work in getting us to a monumental growth of solar in the US as your 9 years of president and CEO of the Solar Energy Industry Association. And that's that.
Thank you so much, Benoy. Great information as always, and we're definitely going to miss Abby. She's a firecracker, did a lot of damage within the industry, and really helped over the last 9 years bring us, to such an amazing place in this last nearly decade. So thank you again for sharing all of that.
Yeah, it's amazing her energy. She's a great and amazing person, and we thank her for her service to the industry, and we look forward to the future. And I'm always excited, David, to hear the interesting news that you have.
Of course. So jumping to the Grid Power Act is something we're going to talk about today. Grid Power Act, was enacted with Congress, and the Grid Power Act is placing mandates on FERC. These mandates that the Grid Power Act is putting in place are going to be expediting the interconnection queues for dispatchable generation and loads. So really following along a large theme, we're in the energy renaissance. There's going to be lots of new power plants being built, battery storage, energy pricing are increasing dramatically. And this, mandate through FERC is going to actually help increase the interconnection queue and definitely have some impacts, both positive and negative, when you think about the fact that these queue positions are going to be jumped, other resources. That actually flows directly into October 23rd, the feedback that FERC, and Chris Wright have basically put into place of urging, the standardization to take place and focusing on these curtailable loads, which are critical and provide a lot of flexibility. So overarching theme, that we're seeing here is from these governmental, pushes, it's a really big push towards dispatchable generation and resources, load resources that can be curtailed. So think about flexibility and the fact that our grid is becoming much more dynamic, and we're dealing with an interconnection backlog that we may finally see for the first time actually get solved and move things much quicker, as we've seen with some of these ISOs and RTOs, such as SPP, which we previously talked about. So really exciting, to speak about. Interested to see where this goes. Obviously, we see headlines coming each week, about all different new facilities coming to place. Interconnection queue has been a bottleneck. It looks like this is going to get solved in the very near future. Next thing we need to solve is on the permitting front, which I'm sure will be coming very soon. That's that. You just enjoyed 5 minutes of the absolute best information in the clean tech industry. Make sure you hit like, 5 stars, and take care.